Hi, this is Miss Cindy. I'm back again with another craft project that I would like to share with you. This project has been started years ago, but because of the type of craft that it is, it's never finished. Some people finish. Years later, you can come back, you can change it, you can paint it, you can add to it. So this is something that's actually never ending that I wanted to try my hands at. I was in a bad car accident years ago and I re injured my back. This was a really bad time for me because I was out of work. I had a little craft business I had to stop. I was an avid bowler. I've been bowling since I was 14 and I love to bowl. And even though I've had accidents or surgery, I was always able to go back and bowl. I had bowled on leagues since I was 14 years old, never missing a year. So when I had this accident, it not only was it physically trying on my body, but it was emotionally and mentally stressful because I was told I would never be able to bowl again. So while I was home and going to therapy, going to doctors, getting shots, taking medication, and recuperating, I really had nothing to do, and it started to get a little bit boring. So I came up with something that I wanted to do. I wanted to have when I was a little girl growing up. I grew up with a family. We didn't have a lot of money. There were four kids. And I always had to play with my girlfriends this particular toy. And it was a dollhouse. So while I was home one day, I said, you know what? I'm going to buy me a dollhouse and I'm going to go ahead and decorate it. So I got online and I did all of this searching on for dollhouses, and I was just overwhelmed with how many people were into dollhouses and decorating and painting, and it was just really overwhelming. It was also very expensive. So I decided when I saw some of the prices of already built dollhouses, which were ranging from 200 to I actually saw one that was $25,000. I decided I was going to make one. At least I was going to try my hands at making a dollhouse, but not one for the Barbie sized dolls, but the smaller ones, the miniature dollhouses. So once again, did all my research. It took a few weeks to do some research to make sure I had the correct supplies so I could build my own. And I even found some plans online. They actually have dollhouse plans that you can use just like if you were building a regular house. So I spent $8. I got the plans. Went to Home Depot, got the wood, got some plywood, and I figured I'm gonna go ahead and build this miniature dollhouse. It's a two-story dollhouse, and see if I could do it. I knew it was gonna be a lot of work. I knew physically I wasn't 100% up to doing it, but I was 150% mentally up to taking my mind off of my first passion of bowling. So I recruited my son, who I only needed his help for drilling because it was hard to bend over and drill and to lift the wood. But other than that, I was able to get my list of what I needed and I was ready to start my miniature dollhouse. So I want to share with you the supplies and some of the things I went through to get this dollhouse built. And you're going to see how creativity and imagination, when you're really into crafts, just goes wild. This project is a huge project, and I learned so much building this house as far as crafting supplies, wood, stains, primers, paints. It's just, this is my foundation for a lot of the crafts that I do now. So I want you to go along with this journey with me. You will see it's going to get wild and it's going to get crazy. And as I said before, this is a project that never ends. I saw online where they had blogs and chat rooms. They have clubs for miniature dollhouses. They have groups that are retirees that started and they got together after they all retired and finished their dollhouses years later. So this is a project that you can have fun with, be very creative with. It's not the easiest project to do, but once you get started and once you master some of the skills, it's as easy as pie. So enjoy. I'm going to start out with a list of the supplies that I use just for the construction of this house. I did not list the plans. You can draw your own plans. I threw those away. It was kind of hard for me to follow, so I decided to do my own thing. So I wanted to make sure that it was built, painted, primed, and I really wanted it to have working lights. So I got all of this stuff first. Once again, I didn't get it all at once because it took some money. And you definitely need a saw if you don't know anybody that has a saw. So I also had to invest in a saw. I could do this all by myself except for the fact that I was physically not able. So I needed the help of my son. You will need the help of someone else to help you lift the frame once it's done and help, temporarily put it together to make sure it's going to work. And since I also wanted wiring, I had to also enlist a good friend who does wiring on dollhouses, but I will get to that a little bit later. So here's my wood. I purchased 2 panels of wood, the same that you would use to to cover up the windows and doors for hurricane. I did not need this much wood, but just in case I made a mistake, I went ahead and purchased it anyway. I also got 2 different sizes. For the foundation, it's a little bit thicker than the woods that I would be using for the walls and the floors. I got all my measurements done. I went ahead and cut everything, all the straight edges. I had to do a little bit of sanding on the ends. And there's my scroll saw, my Ryobi scroll saw, which I got pretty inexpensive from Home Depot, and it works fine. I've done a lot of other crafts using the same saw after this dollhouse, but this worked just fine for me. As you can see with that extra wood, we went from a 2-story to not only a 3-story, but 2 buildings. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and make this 2 buildings since I had wood left over. This is where your tape comes in place because you can, after you cut it out and put it all together, you use your tape just to make sure everything is even and fits before you go ahead and nail it in. Here is the roof that I also tackled. And you will notice another little box there. Well, I decided to go with 3 buildings since I still had wood left over. I was going to use as much wood as possible. The sandpaper there is just for like the edges of the roof, anywhere that I cut that wasn't smooth. Your edges really need to be smoothed out. You can also smooth the actual wood for the walls and whatnot. I learned that afterwards that a good nice sanding down looks a lot better, but I didn't know it at the time because I assumed the primer would, go over it and make it smooth. But when it comes to this type of wood, then yes, I would suggest you do a little bit more sanding than I did. There's my roof that's cut out. And as you can see, that 2-story went to a 3-story with an attic and another building. And there's my 3 buildings that I'm going to start as my miniature dollhouse. Once again, the tape is used just to keep everything in place before you permanently drill these nails in to get the framework. So everything's looking pretty good right about now. I got my doors, my windows, everything is the way I want it to be. So now I have to prime it all. That took a couple of coats and a couple of days to do. I used the Zap primer. I don't even think they're still in business, but you can use Kiln. Any primer will do. There's just another shot of everything. This is the second coat of everything being primed. And then it came time for siding. So this can be expensive, but I did buy some siding that I wanted to put to give the outside some texture. Some people do, some people don't, but this is how I wanted my buildings to be. So I did the siding. You can also see I also have my shutters and my doors on. This is the priming of the siding, the outside. There's all my doors and my shutters. Yes, this took time, and I primed those too because I wanted to paint them. And with any type of wood, you really wanted to have a nice, smooth finish. There's the side. I also wanted a chimney in this building. So I just took a piece of wood and put it on the side, and I nailed it in, but I'm going to show you what I did with it to give it that fireplace feeling. This original dollhouse was supposed to be decorated with, like, like an old Victorian style, because those are all the dollhouses that were very popular. But as I started this, I said, I'm going to give this a little modern twist, and I'm going to do it my way. So everything has been put together. You can see the insides. I got my windows in. And yes, we had one mishap. I broke a toe. You have to be very careful with wood. But it did happen. I'm so glad I had at least my sock on. But yes, I'm going to continue with this project, broken toe and all. I just taped it up and kept on going. This is the dollhouse now that it's painted. I got a gallon of acrylic paint, went on nice and smooth. It wasn't the most expensive paint, but like I said, this is just starting out, but I did like the way the paint went on. Now it comes to the roof. I was quite amazed to find that they had actual real miniature shingles for dollhouses. So what I did was I trimmed the edges in black because I was going to use a black shingle, and then I had to glue it on. So you're gluing strips of real asphalt shingles across the top. This was labor intensive, but the finished product is just gorgeous. This is almost done. That is completely done. And that texture and that look is so sharp on a dollhouse. So there you go. There's my dollhouse. Still not finished, but just to give you an idea, the 3 buildings, it's not perfect. I can sit here and probably name about 50 floors that I see, but first time out, I found that it could be done. I used a cement mixture and a brick stencil. As you can see, if you look down bottom to the right, it's a stencil it's like a cement. You put the cement on, and then you put the little stencil over it, and then you just paint it in, so it gives it a brick feel. I've seen dollhouses where they use little tiny bricks and take the time to stack them all and paint them and grout them. Well, I wasn't going through this. This is a cheaper way of doing it and still getting the same effect. Just to get an idea of what it was going to look like, and if my scale was correct, I put the little miniature rocking chair there. And yes, it looks like it's going to work. All my shutters now have been painted. The front has been painted. And I used some artificial turf, just a strip. You can get that at the miniature doll store. Or if you have some at home, you can use that. I use that for the porch. You're going to find when you do miniature doll houses that imagination for coming up with different supplies and different things that you can use, it really goes wild when you're doing miniature doll houses. And you will see that as this video goes on. One of my biggest concerns with building this dollhouse was I knew I could get it constructed, but I also wanted wiring. I wanted there to be lights, and I didn't have a clue where to begin, how to do it. Naturally, I could have researched it online, but you couldn't be messing with buying all of these supplies and then messing them up. And I had come too far getting the shell done that I didn't want to mess it up. So I happened to mention this to a couple of people, a couple of co-workers, and one of them said that her husband actually built dollhouses. He did a whole lot more than build dollhouses. When I went to his house, he had a 2-car garage full of all sorts of equipment, saws and metal cutters, and he builds pretty much anything you put in front of him he can do, but he did a lot of woodworking. So we sort of recruited him to teach me how to wire a dollhouse. So with that guidance, I was able to get the right kit to use and the right lighting fixtures to use. And he taught me. He came over to the house a few times and he gave me a lesson in wiring. Starting out, it was very, very hard because they have little tiny brads that you have to nail into the structure. And brads were all over the place. I had to make sure I vacuumed before we stepped anywhere. It was knowledgeable. It was hard to learn, but he was such a great teacher. He missed his calling because he was such a great teacher and very patient. His name is Tom Stones, and unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But this dollhouse would not be what it is today if it wasn't for him. So I do thank him and his wife, Pat, for introducing me to him and asking him to help me out. So here's a picture of my dollhouse. The exterior is all completed. I have a little trim up there. That was just some wood that I got from the miniature dolls store. And I just painted that just to give it a little pop on the outside. Now we're on to wiring. This is Tom, the one that I spoke of. My son took a quick shot of us because we were in there carrying on about these brads all over the place. And it didn't sound like we were actually in school and learning. So he came in and took a shot of us. But this is the man that helped me get this wiring done. This is the kit that he suggested that I get. A lot of the older doll houses are hardwired. With, like I said, with every product, we have new technology. So this is where you actually lay down the tape, which has the wires in it that your power actually runs through to light up these doll houses. There's all the receptacles and the brads that I needed for all the lighting and plugs. I was pretty amazed at this too because I didn't realize all of this stuff came in miniatures when it really looks like the sockets in a real house. As you see, you need to lay a plan out when it comes to wiring the interior. All of these strips of the tape needs to be neat. They need to cross in a certain section. That's where you put the brads in. It just takes time. This was very challenging, but I knew where the lights were that I wanted them to be. So that made it easy. What was challenging was going from room to room. I even wanted lights in the hallway above the staircase. So this is a picture of the house fully wired. And then I put another coat of primer over there. But then my house took a quick left. Because this house was so big, I decided that it's no longer going to be a house, where I decorate the different rooms, like I have in my own house. Instead, I decided to make this a bed and breakfast. And I was going to call it Lucienne's Bed and Breakfast. So this gave me the opportunity, now that it's time for decorating, that I could actually decorate this as a bed and breakfast. So the next thing up was the floors. Wood flooring is what I wanted, especially in the living room. And one of the tricks that I learned that I could use is balsa wood and stain. I would get balsa wood, strip it down, and then I would go ahead and lay it on a hard cardboard, glue it down, make any design I want, and then stain it. And then all I had to do was take that cardboard, made sure it was the same size as the floor, and slide it in. It worked. I would sand down the edges, and then I could glue it to the bottom of the house. This is my first floor wood flooring, and the L there is because, like I said, I changed this from a house to a bed and breakfast. So it's Lucienne's Bed and Breakfast. There's the L that's going to be on the first floor in the middle of the living room. There's the finished product after it was stained and dried. You see to the right that I had to make sure that the hole for the wiring, the plug could go in so that once I wired it once, it would light up the whole house. There's a close-up. Balsa wood, stain, and Omni glue became my best friend making this dollhouse. Then it came time for my staircases. So here it just shows that I primed them first and then I stained those two. There's the staircase, one of the staircases that's been put back together and put it in the house. And then there's just a chandelier in the dining room that I already have wired up. This is some of the other flooring I did. They have miniature carpeting and rugs, vinyl. There is nothing that you can't find for miniature dollhouses. So I got small pieces of that. And like I said, with this being a bed and breakfast, now I'm going to have different themes for the different rooms. All my doors are in. All my lighting's in. Well, this is where the fun begins, when it's time to furnish this dollhouse. Remember, this is a bed and breakfast, so the owner, myself, I took the top floor, the attic, and because I like the Egyptian theme, my actual bedroom is also done with the Egyptian theme. That's the theme that I went with this room. As you see, all my lighting works. My curtains and my bedspreads. I started cutting corners now. I went ahead and just got some fabric and made them fit these beds. On the third floor is my the lavender guest bathroom. This was another one that was challenging. I did spend a little money on this one because I had to buy a shower and I had to buy a tub and a lot of the fixtures. But this one I'm really proud of because it's just pretty. It's just something that you would see in the bed and breakfast. It's nice and quaint. On the same floor, on the other side of the building, this is the brass leopard print guest room. Once again, a lot of the stuff that I had to make, the pictures on the wall, I just took a big picture and downsized it. Curtains and pillows I just made instead of buying them. On the second floor, this is my game room. Everything is also lighted. If you look up in the corner, that's actually me on that TV screen. But this is a nice little room that you can come to if you come to the bed and breakfast. You can watch the big screen TV, or you can play some pool, or you can sit in the corner on the computer. Across the hall from that is my cherry wood suite. This was just done in cherry wood. Actually, all of this furniture in here is a cherry wood. And on my first floor is the dining room. This had the old-fashioned decor that I originally was going to do the whole house in if I did a dollhouse, but I decided to change it up. But you still come to a bed and breakfast. You got the old-fashioned in there as well as the new and the modern. My living room has a TV, lamps. I have a little baby grand piano over there, and that piano actually plays. I was able to find a music box that was a small replica of a baby grand piano, and when you turn the bottom of it, it has music coming out of it. So I've got lights and music. There's a shot of the whole house. So now we're going to the second building. This one I did in honor of my son, and he's a DJ, and he's into electronics, so that's how I made his room with the turntables and the laptop, the computer, and he's a New York Yankee fan, so I had some of that material, so I made his bedspread out of that. This was a room that I had a big mistake in, but I didn't care because I got to keep going. The only thing I actually had to purchase for this one was the trundle bed. But other than that, all of this stuff I made. The stereo, the records, the table, all of this stuff I made. So as you do miniatures, you come up with ideas so you don't have to spend so much on furniture. This is the Tranquility Den. This is where you can go in and just relax. You can sit on the laptop if you want. To the left is a bookcase. I did a lot of books. All I did was printables. You can get printables online. And I got a lot of little small pieces of wood and just glued the covers of different books, and they're hanging in the bookshelf. This is my country red kitchen. This is an old-fashioned kitchen. You know you like to see these when you go to bed and breakfasts. So I did this in red and white. The refrigerator is stocked. All of the cabinets have pots and pans and everything in them. I really had a good time furnishing this. This was not a challenge. This was fun to do. The small building on the top, this is called the Granada Terrace. This is when you come to this bed and breakfast. You can sit out top, smell the flowers, grill some steaks, and just have a good time at night. This is the Granada Terrace because it's named after a girlfriend that has watched me build this dollhouse. She has been so supportive, and she found a wrought iron patio set that she gave me as a gift, and it was just perfect for the top of this building. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but once she gave me that gift, I knew exactly what I was going to do with it, and I named it after her. Right below that is the laundry room. I got my washer, my dryer, everything that's needed for a bed and breakfast laundry room so that we can wash your clothes. You can wash your own clothes. So here's some close-ups. A lot of this stuff I did not have to buy, but I did make, right down to the shelving. This was the mistake that I told you. Unfortunately, my son will have to climb out the window because when I built this part of this building, I forgot a door. So that's a big mistake that I made, but hey, you got to keep moving. So now that the bed and breakfast has been constructed and furnished and everything is working, I've learned so much. It was a long journey, but it was a lot of knowledge that I learned, a lot of experience. This is at the point where the imagination, the creativity, using your skills and the knowledge that you've learned, and the madness steps in. Now that I know how to do this, we went from a house to a bed and breakfast to a whole block. Since I know how to build these houses now, I have added a bowling alley, an art gallery, a record shop, a church, a casino, a jazz club, and a disco. So now I'm going to take you to that journey where this really got fun. It was very addicting. The world of miniatures opened up for me a whole nother world, because now I'm going through my daily ritual of living and seeing everything in miniatures. I mean, I could be brushing my teeth and look at the toothpaste cap and say, oh, that could be a vase. So for the next few months, this is what I'm doing. So I want you to see Lucienne's Way, which is a getaway for you couples. Before I show you the madness, there is something else I wanted to mention. I mentioned Tom to you, who helped me with the wiring. Well, he was really supportive during this project also. And when he first came to my house to show me the wiring, he didn't say anything, but he looked around and he said he was very impressed at the shell of the dollhouse. I thought he was just, trying to make me feel good. But he said I did an awesome job, and he was shocked at the saw that I used, because that's not the normal saw you would use for cutting that wood, but I did it and I got it together. So I kept him posted on my progress, and when it got done, and he told me let him know when it was completely finished. So I did, and he stopped by to see the finished product. And with him, he had built me a stand for the saw, and it had this big red bow on it. And he said, this is a gift to you because you should not be sitting on the floor doing this work. And he said, after I saw your enthusiasm with the way the dollhouse was coming along, he knew in his heart that I was going to do this again. And he was right, because when he came, I told him the plans I had to build other buildings. So I just want to show you a picture of something that he didn't measure. He just looked at my saw. He knew what to do. And he gave this as a gift for me. And this made cutting the wood a whole lot easier. Okay, so here we are starting with my storefront. As you can see, this was done pretty quickly. I know how to cut now and get the windows all cut out. I know how to do the wiring, so the wiring was pretty easy for these buildings. Then I went ahead and primed them and painted, put my doors on. There's the interior. I even got creative and had some running board going around the bottom edges, and it's carpeted and it's wired. All the lighting works. This is one side of it. This is Norman White's art gallery. This was named after my brother because my brother is an artist. He does paint. And I took some of his paintings, some of my paintings, some of my late father-in-law's paintings, and my daughter-in-law's paintings. And I took pictures of them, and then I just shrunk them down, made them small, miniature. And then I did some framing using that balsa wood. On the other side is the Sir Estefan record shop. And I named this one after my son, the one who's the DJ. He's the one who has the room in the house that has no door. But again, a lot of this stuff I made on my own, even the shelves. And I just took pictures of posters and shrunk them down. There wasn't much expense in this one either. There's records on the wall. I made all of the shelves on the wall and just took copies of albums, and put that on like a cardstock, something a little bit stronger so they would stay up on the wall. The only expense I really had in this one was the stereo. I found a cute little miniature stereo that had the speakers, so I did buy that. Here is my frame for the bowling alley. This was going to be a challenge because in miniatures, I've seen museums, I've seen music rooms, I've seen swimming pools, I've seen parks, but I never saw a miniature bowling alley. So since I can't bowl anymore, this is in honor of me. I wanted to see if I can do it. There's the front. And there's my plexiglass front window. And there's my bowling alley. This came out pretty good. I was quite pleased with it. I guess it's because I've been around bowling alleys all my life that I knew exactly how I wanted it to look. So this came out pretty good. And yes, if you roll that ball down there, those pins will drop. There's my AMF sign, which I made out of pearly beads. And here's a shot of the whole bowling alley. There wasn't much expense for this either. I picked up a little things along the way. A lot of the food I made. I made the alley, the sitting seat for the bowling alley and the machine. The biggest expense I did on this particular room was the working jukebox in the corner. Again, just surfing the net, I found a radio, a small radio, and that's what that is. So it definitely plays music. So like I said, you can get very creative. You can cut corners. You can do your own thing. You can find other stuff that you can use for miniatures. It does not necessarily have to be dollhouse miniature furniture. You can do your own thing. This is my church. As you can see, I built the cross and the pulpit, once again, using balsa wood. I am a master of wiring now. I got this down packed. I can wire anything. This is the church finished. The biggest expense here was the piano, which didn't cost much at all. I get a lot of stuff on eBay. But I made all of the pews and the pulpit. And I'm proud of this one because I was able to find an actual Bible. That is a real Bible there. Although it's miniature, it has all the verses and scriptures in it. You would just need a magnifying glass to read it, but it is a real Bible. On the side, I have my stained glass windows again, and I made a little bench. And on the other side, I use dowels, and I cut them in different sizes to make like a huge planter. with some artificial flowers. And there's the front view of my church. Well, now that you've checked into Lucienne's bed and breakfast, and you had a little bite to eat, you went across the street, bowled a couple of games, you went to the record store, you went to the art gallery, you took a tour of the church. Well, it's nighttime, and it's time to party. So we're going to visit Club Lucienne. I'm going to say, even though I love all of these buildings, I've learned so much along the way, different techniques, the imagination, the creativity just went wild. I'm going to say this is my favorite building. I really had a whole lot of fun doing this one and trying to find all of the things that I needed to go in it. I've never seen anybody do anything like this. Once again, none of these projects are perfect. It's just using your imagination and your creativity and your skills to just have fun with crafts, and that's what I did with this one. You're going to see that this is my favorite building before it's over. So enjoy. Well, here is the beginning of Club Lucienne. This is going to be another two-story building. Dance club on the bottom, casino on the top. I got this cut out pretty quick. I knew what I was going to do. There's the interior. There's my wiring. I'm a master at wiring now. And once again, my two-story became a three-story because I had some extra wood left over. So I ended up doing a dance club on the first floor, casino on the second floor, and the small building on the top is going to be a jazz club. There's Club Lucienne, 3 floors. To the left, if you look to the left, you're going to see I use plexiglass to like a covered terrace. When you come up from the casino, that will lead into the jazz club. If you come to the window and you look out, you'll be able to see all of the buildings. You'll see the whole block. On the first floor is my disco. Once again, that balsa wood and stain worked. I made a dance floor. And the carpet around it was not meant to be all of these colors, but instead of using one solid color, because I didn't have enough in one solid color, the flooring, I just cut a pattern out and glued that down. I used my balsa wood and some skill to make a DJ booth and a cashier's booth. And every club needs a bar. So I made this bar using, once again, balsa wood. I got some little mirrors that I found at Walmart. You use it for crafting, but I used that so it had a mirror in the back of the bar just to give it a little flair. I also have this wired, so this does light up. And now the bar is fully stocked. Now, these little bottles and the little glasses I was able to get, I believe these were at Walmart. They were very inexpensive, so I didn't mind investing any money in that. And my disco ball was actually a keychain that I pulled that off and then glued it up top. Not only does the club have a bar, but the jazz club will also have a bar, so I made a smaller one for upstairs. On the second floor is my casino. To the left is a blackjack table, and in the center is a roulette table. Both of these are real. They're just small replicas of an actual blackjack and roulette table. The blackjack table has all of the pieces that comes with it. The cards are actually a real deck of cards. They're just miniature, and they're coated like a deck of cards. The roulette table actually works. It spins, and it also comes with all the accessories for a roulette table. These, I did pay some money for them. I got these overseas. I think they came from the UK, but I know these I purchased outside of the United States. When it came to the slot machines, that was another challenge. I looked for slot machines for miniature dollhouses, and I couldn't find any. However, I did run across lighters and pencil sharpeners. So that's what I used. I bought 2 of each. So the pencil sharpeners actually work, and the lighters actually work. The stools that they're that's sitting in front of them, I don't know where I found these, but those are plastic. They're like industrial spools. So I got four of them, and all I did was wrap some fabric around them so they look like seating. The table I also made. In the back, you will see I have a little bathroom. And then we go upstairs, and there's Adrian's Jazz Club. Now, this one was named after my youngest son because he's the mellow one in the family, and he likes to sit back, give him a little cocktail, sit back and listen to some music. So I named this room after him. Again, I did buy some furniture to put in there, but a lot of the decorations are just pictures and posters that I downloaded that had to do with music, made them smaller, and just taped them up on the wall. My outside terrace that leads into the jazz club, I fenced in and I covered with some fabric. And if you see the flowers hanging, there's nothing but beads and some flowers glued on the inside of them. So like I said, you can get real creative. You can find things around the house that you can use for miniature doll houses. You do not have to buy all of the furniture. Well, now that you've taken a tour of Club Lucienne, that's where all the action is. So, in order to bring it to life, I needed some dolls. I did some researching online, and I don't know if you know, but miniature dolls are just as expensive as the supplies. So, I had to try my hand at making dolls. And what I used was polymer clay. It comes in all different colors. It's easy to work with. I got a couple of molds. I had to get molds because I didn't want all of the dolls to look the same. So I started molding these dolls with these clays and baking them. I only did the heads and the arms, and I used pipe cleaners and fabric for the bodies because that it's a lot of work. Um, and I just wanted to bring some life to the club. The other thing I did to get my dolls going is I went to the dollar store, and I must have got I don't know how many of those dolls. And this is where the madness comes in because I was stripping off those clothes, I was using those clothes, and I was also ripping their heads off and using their hair. So when I say this got some madness in it and some real creativity and also saving some money. This is how I did it. So now here are my dolls, and I've only done one building, and it's the club, and just to bring some life to this building. Okay, so here's some of the doll heads that I did. As you can see, I used different tones, different facial expressions. All of this was done with polymer clay. You mold it the way you want. You go ahead and bake it, and when it comes out and it cools, you go ahead and paint it. I only did the heads and the arms. And then I started dressing them, getting some hair on them, gluing the hair on, and putting them in some cool clothes and placing them around the club. This is one couple dancing. This was hard trying to get them to stand up, but I made it. And then there's my bar with a couple of patrons, my bartender. Over in the corner is little Kim. Then we went upstairs to the casino. I'm going to say this is my favorite doll. This one has the most character in his face. And for what he's doing, being the blackjack dealer, he just looks so serious. There's the roulette dealer. There's one of my waitresses. And there's the casino cashier. Here's a couple of customers getting ready to play blackjack. We have someone over there spending her money on the slot machine. And then upstairs, I have a room full of dolls that I made. Everybody's at the Adrian Jazz Club. And then I have this person is supposed to be on on leave entering the jazz club. So I'm pretty much finished with Club Lucienne, and I started the bowling alley. And that's as far as I got with dolls. So for the time being, Lucienne Way is completed for now. I still have dolls to do. I may end up adding some more buildings. I may change some of the buildings that I already done, change them around. I haven't decided yet, but I just wanted to give you an idea that this can be done. I did it my way, um, and I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. Like I said, this is a foundation for a lot of the crafts that I do now, whether it's woodworking or painting. This just opened up a whole different world for me, and I wanted to share it with you because it can be done. This was done right around Christmas time when I was actually at this point of just stopping, and I have to mention him again because he has pulled through for me through this whole project. But Tom stopped by. He said he had a Christmas gift for me. Now I couldn't imagine what it was because when he made the stand for the sword, that was like, you don't have to give me nothing else in life. That was just, just the best gift. But he came by because I still had the dollhouses, something on a coffee table, sitting on the floor, sitting on the bench. And he stopped by and he had made 3 large tables, uh, 4 by 2 feet, and he made 3 of them. And he had showed me how to screw in the legs so they came like up to the waist so that I can display the whole block. And once I did that, that was just the best thing anybody could have done for me. So now I have all of these houses in one room. It's just enough room that you can walk around them so you can see everything. You can also walk in the middle to see everything. And it was right in time for Christmas. So what I did do was I decorated Lucienne Way for Christmas. So before I close this video out, I wanted to share one more thing with you. This dollhouse was a very big project, and that's just the way I do things. But you don't have to, if you want to get into miniature dollhouses, you don't have to start this big. I would suggest you start small with like a room box, and it's called a miniature room box. And all it is just one room that you get the feel of decorating and putting it together and getting the right scale. I have a coworker who all she does is collects Santas. She's been collecting Santas for about 50 years. So anybody that knows her family members and friends, when they give her a Christmas gift, it has to do with Santa. I worked with her for many years, and it was hard every Christmas trying to give her a Santa and hoping she didn't already have it. And to this day, she doesn't have two of the same. So since I had built this dollhouse, I said, I'm going to go ahead for this particular Christmas. I'm going to make her a room box decorated the way her living room is decorated for Christmas. So this is just a small project based on the miniatures that you can do just to get started out. You don't have to cut the wood or anything. You can actually buy the room box, which is what I did. I purchased it, and then because I had experimented and I was successful in making the wood floors and playing and making furniture, all of that I did. But as far as the shell, I just purchased a room box. So I wanted to show you that. So that's something that you can do first and get the feel of it and to see if it's something you want to do. And then you can go ahead and invest the money and try to do a miniature dollhouse. I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day. Thank you.